Session 10, Romance.
Keep the heart fires burning.
Morning.
Hi, son.
How's it going?
Oh, fine. Boy, I hope the fish are biting today.
Oh, me too. You ready?
Yeah, your mom fixed us a little lunch.
What are we having?
Well, I don't know.
All right, chocolate chip.
Yeah,
My favorite.
and mine. You know, I don't know when your mom baked these things. Your mom.
What's that?
Oh, it's nothing.
Well, come on, what is it?
It's nothing, just a little love note.
From Mom?
Oh, yeah, of course it's from your mom.
Well, what's it say?
Well, I think that's a little personal, son.
Mom's still doing that?
Well, yeah, why are you so surprised?
Well, after all these years.
You know, I remember one time I told your mom to pack her sneakers in the car before church. I mean, I didn't tell her why. After church, I'd packed a big lunch and we went down to the lake. We had us a nice little romantic picnic. I mean, just the two of us.
Wow. Deb and I don't do anything like that anymore. You know, I mean, we never. Hey, you don't want to hear this?
Oh, yeah, what's up?
I don't know, Dad. You know, I mean, we used to get so excited about just being together. The littlest things were so special.
Well, yeah, you were a lovesick little puppy.
I used to take hours just to try to think of something special that I could do for her, just to see her eyes light up. We were so in love.
You still love her.
Yeah, I love her and respect her. I mean, take her to dinner and, you know, I don't know, Dad, just kind of routine. Somehow we kind of lost the spark. And I don't know where it's gone.
We're moving to a new house. We had a garage sale. You ever had one of those? You never really want to have them, but you go through them. And we were taking our boxes and unpackaging them and deciding what to sell and what not to sell, what to keep in storage. And I was on the other side of this warehouse where our stuff was stored, that we were having a garage sale. And all of a sudden, our 20-year-old daughter began jumping up and down with glee, saying, "Look at these! I found Dad and Mom's love letters!" And she started running all over. Our son ran across the room and said, "Oh, I can't wait to see them." My heart jumped out of and I jumped right over the table and said, "I'll kill you if you touch those love letters." They pulled them out, and there were a whole big box of them. And David says, "Dad, you and Mom wrote all these love letters?" I want to talk to you about romance. I want to talk about romance with you. Can you go back in your own mind to when you felt the most romance? Romance. I guess you'd say romance is the reason you probably got married. It's because you said, "I feel so much in love, I just can't stand to be apart from you. You're the person I've looked for all of my life." Remember that? Remember holding hands and looking in each other's eyes and just thinking, isn't it going to be wonderful to be married to you forever? Romance. Romance can be a picnic by a quiet pond. How do I love thee? Let me count the TV channels. I don't think so. Romance to her can be a seaside dinner. To him, it may be 2 ringside seats. Romance is giving.
Now what could he be giving me? Flowers? Jewelry?
He's gonna love this toaster.
Romance is a date with your spouse. But timing, it's everything. Romance. When you talk to people about the issue of romance, the older they become, people sometimes don't use that word anymore, romantic. They use the word, we're married. We've been married a long time. Of course we love each other. But romantic is for those kids. Romance. What is romance anyway? Romance is a kind of love, isn't it? Can you fervently love somebody and not have romantic love? Yes. Romantic love is only supposed to occur right preceding marriage and in marriage. Romantic love is a particular kind of love, isn't it? That draws you closer and closer together. And when that romantic love is there in a marriage, when there's the sparkle, there's the waking up in the morning and a sense of anticipation of what's going to take place today, and you think about that person you're in love with and you call them on the phone, or you think, what can I get them today? It's a romantic part. What is the key to that romantic part anyway? How does it really work? Is it just something that kind of floats in marriage at the beginning and then visits every once in a while, you know? Or is it something that can be regularly yours? And if so, how on earth does it really work? What makes romantic love really work? I would probably guess that every one of us would love to feel romantic love a lot. There's something about that just gives your life zip. It's wonderful, isn't it? It makes you comb your hair more and dress nicer, and it adds that part of your life that you find yourself whistling. It's wonderful to be in love, isn't it? Well, what are the lies about romance? Do you know? What are the things that I've heard as I've counseled so many couples over the years whose romance has gone out of their marriage? What are the things that people say to me in that moment where I say to myself, that's an issue that tells me that when they say this, romance is dead at that time? What does it sound like when romance is gone? It sounds like this. It's, I'm just not in love anymore. I used to love that person, but I'm not in love anymore. I fell out of love. I really didn't expect to fall out of love, but I did fall out of love, and it's just too bad. If it's at the very end of a marriage crumbling, you'd hear words like, I think I married the wrong person. And since I married the wrong person, I can't really have the romantic love. Sometimes in an anguishing moment, you'll hear somebody say to you through tears, typically, I've tried and I've tried and I've failed and I'm going to give up. I just can't get that romantic love anymore. Sometimes you hear people say, I'm just too old and I'm too tired. What do you say? I think what I've heard over and over is everybody knows that romantic love has an end. That's the lie I hear the most. It's almost like there's a candle here that burns so brightly when you're first married. And all of the excitement and the vitality and the energy and the passion and the surprise and the I loved you, well, the candle burns the brightest at the beginning, but you know what? The candle's only so big. And as the candle goes down, it flickers on and off, but romance has an ending to it. And everybody knows that. And therefore I slide into the kind of mundane, kind of boring living together and hope once in a while maybe something will happen and I could scrape the wax around the wick that's left at the bottom of my candle and light it and maybe have a little bit of the specialness that I got married because of. Romance. Lies we say to each other. I've heard this one many times. My spouse just can't love me that way. They just can't. That's another way of saying I married the wrong person. And I think the one that I kind of hear a lot when it comes around to counseling, maybe the second or third time, where they just say it's just not meant to be, I guess. When people say that, you know what they're really saying? They're saying, I've decided to let my marriage be dead. And when that death happens, it really isn't my fault. I wish that person who married me, who used to think I was so special, would turn around and rediscover me and fall back in love with me. And then I'd have the specialness back. But you know what? What you're really looking for isn't that they love you, but that you have the feeling of love in your heart. Because you can have somebody love you and not have romantic love toward them, and guess what you're missing? The reason why you got married in the first place. You had the feeling. Not just they had the feeling, but you did. You had that romantic love toward the other person. What's the cause of the romance going out? Do you know? There's only two. There's only two. There's only two. Cause number one. Cause number two. Do you know what it is? The number one reason is just about in everybody's marriage quite a bit. And it takes the heart of the person, if they do this incorrectly, and I almost feel like your heart is full of compartments of more and more of your romantic love. And if in time you begin to do this, you'll take compartments of your heart and you'll close the door and you'll put a little lock on it and you'll hold it back. And in time, if those doors begin to close, then before long, your heart is cold and your heart is closed. You know what it is? The first one, it's the refusal to forgive your spouse for hurting you. You see, it's the people that love you the most that can hurt you the deepest. And it's when that heart is just openly in love with, that a person, sometimes without even knowing it, can come and wound and cause a deep hurt. And at that moment is a crisis point about your romance. Because if your heart is completely open, it's easy to love and receive love. It just flows back and forth. But if a hurt occurs, then that hurt, if it's not handled, can move to unforgiveness. I don't forgive you for that hurt. And if that unforgiveness stays there, that will move to stage number 3, which is bitterness. And it kind of grows on you. And before long, without even knowing you're thinking this way, you know what happens to the person that you wanted to give your heart to? It goes from hurt to unforgiveness to bitterness. You know what the next stage is? Vengeance. But you don't think vengeance. You just say to yourself, I'm not going to let him or her hurt me again. I'm going to get even. They hurt me. You know how we get even in romance? We close that part of our heart off to the person we're in love with. We close it off and we lock it. And you know what happens? We kind of keep our heart at edge a little bit, guarding it now. It used to be free. And a person that we were married to could make an act of romantic love toward us and we'd receive it. Man, we felt loved. But now we kind of, watch out now, you hurt me before. And I remember that. And that part of my heart is getting cold. And in time, what begins to happen is we don't receive love from the person. The same act done by the same person you were in love with. When there's unforgiveness in it and bitterness and a closed heart, they'll be loving you. They might not even have known that they hurt you. And in time, you'll be giving them a flower, or you'll be making them their favorite meal, or you'll be getting dressed in the favorite dress that you know your spouse loves, and they don't even feel it. What does the Bible say? Forgive one another as Christ forgave you. What do you have to do? If you keep trying to love your spouse and they won't receive your love, guess what? Guess what? Unlock it. Ask your spouse. Don't ask. Say to your spouse, I have hurt you. Would you please tell me how I have so I can make it right? And maybe your spouse doesn't ask you that question. You know what you have to do? You have to open your own heart. You take your cold heart that doesn't want to be hurt again, and you bring it right over the person that hurt you and open it. Rip off the lock. Take it off. Open yourself again, or else you'll never feel love again. And every reason you got married in the early part was because you loved what happened in your heart to this person who loved you more than anybody else. And you'd give your right arm to have that love again. And for you to have the love again, you know how you're going to do that? You have to take off the lock off the hurt. And take that hurt over to the person and say, you hurt me very bad. And I want to forgive you for hurting me. They don't have to apologize. They should. Hopefully they will. But it's your heart that's hurt. Fix it. Forgive. I would say 90% of all the marriages that go to the rocks have a trail of unforgiveness right through them. Second of the two causes that cause the bruising and the destruction of romance is a refusal to be the spouse the Bible commands you to be. A refusal to forgive my spouse. A refusal for me to be the spouse that the Bible tells me I am to be. If you look at the world, it's telling you how to be a spouse. You can count on it being 100% backwards from what it's supposed to be. The Bible tells you how to be a spouse in such a way that you will have romantic love and your spouse will have romantic love to you. I studied every passage about marriage in this whole Bible over and over and over again. And I want to say something very clear to you. It is the will of God that every marriage has romantic love as the normal way of a marriage. It's not meant to be with the passing of the wind. I don't know what happened, but boy, I was in love yesterday. It's the will of God. That is the norm. And it is a lie to say that you can't have it. This book tells you how to have it. And those people who are romantically in love, do what it says. This issue of romance. Romantic love is the will of God for every marriage and naturally occurs. It naturally occurs as we do our part in marriage in obedience to the Bible. Romantic love is the will of God for you, for me. And naturally, listen to me, naturally occurs. It's not something I have to make. It naturally occurs as I do my part in my marriage according to the Bible. If I just do what the Bible says, romantic love will be there. Number 1, 7 principles. Number 1, establish your marriage. Establish your particular marriage. This is seen in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, where it says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Now, some of these we've talked about in other parts of this series, but I want to kind of hit home the real issue of romance. Number 1, you have to establish your marriage. How do you do that? 2 things. Number 1, you got to leave your parents. And number 2, you have to cleave to your wife. When this is not obeyed, it's usually to do with the wife not leaving her parents and the husband feeling jealous. He feels in competition. How can a young man be in competition to his wife's mother or father? You know what happens then? The romance gets in conflict. Because instead of number 1, I'm number 1, I have to fight for you against your parents. Leave. So every choice that the wife or the husband makes is, I choose my husband, I choose my wife over my parents. Second part of that is cleave. You know what that means? That means, hold on. You and me together against the world. Yes. So, you got to leave and you got to cleave. If you stop cleaving, your romance is going to leave. It's going to kind of go. So, are you? Are you leaving? Are you cleaving? Number 2, second universal principle is you got to assume your role. You have to assume your role. This is seen in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 23. For the husband is the head of the wife, not the wife is the head of the husband. It's not even that they're co-heads. It's that the husband is the head. The husband is the leader. And in Genesis 2:18, the Lord God said, "It's not good that man should be alone. I will make a helper comparable to him." So you got to assume your role. You know what will destroy romance every time? When the wife determines to lead. It'll ruin it every time. You know what happens? The wife is bitter because the husband's not leading. And the husband is ticked off that she's leading. And either there'll be fights or the man will become passive. And the woman will become aggressive. And guess what? How much